The sound didn't just echo through the room. It shattered the 5-year-long silence we had all been living in. It was a sharp, wet crack, the sound of a palm meeting the soft cheek of a 7-year-old girl. My granddaughter, Lily, didn't even scream at first. She just stood there, her head snapped to the side, her small body trembling as the air left her lungs. Hook. The moment Patricia's hand connected with Lily's face, she didn't realize she had just signed the death warrant for everything she owned. She thought she was disciplining a child. She didn't know she was provoking a man who had spent 42 years deciding the fates of people much more dangerous than her. My hands were shaking. It wasn't the tremor of an old man's weakness. It was the electric, terrifying vibration of a predator forced to stay in its cage. I watched my son-in-law, Derek, as he stood by the marble fireplace. He didn't move. He didn't rush to his daughter. He just adjusted his cufflink and looked at the floor. Then, he looked at me with a cold, dismissive smirk. "Mom knows best, Harold," he said, his voice as flat as a grave. "Maybe now she'll finally learn some manners. We can't have her acting like a savage in a house like this." I didn't argue. I didn't shout. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous people in the room are often the quietest? I simply excused myself, walked out to the manicured backyard of their Westlake Hills McMansion, and pulled my phone from my pocket. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They saw a retired old man in a Cedar Park shack. They were about to see the Honorable Harold Whitmore. I hadn't seen my daughter Emily in nearly 2 months. The invitation to Lily's 7th birthday hadn't come from her. It had come as a sterile, demanding text from Derek. "Saturday, 3 p.m. Be there." "No, please, no, we'd love to see you." It was a summons issued by a man who treated family like a corporate merger. I had driven from my modest home, the one Patricia loved to call a shack, with a heart full of cautious hope. At 68, you learn that hope is a fragile thing, especially when your daughter has married into a family that breathes pretension like oxygen. Their house on Redbud Trail was a 4,000-square-foot monument to limestone and insecurity. Years ago, I'd offered to help them with a down payment, a gift from a father to a daughter. But Patricia Holloway, the queen of interior design, had blocked it. She told Emily they didn't need charity from my side of the family. Instead, she graciously gave them a loan. At 12% interest. Does that sound like a grandmother to you? Or a loan shark in a Chanel suit? Derek met me at the door. His smile never reached his eyes. It stopped at his teeth, like a gate designed to keep people out. "Harold, you made it," he said. "Not Dad. Not Mr. Whitmore. Just my first name, delivered with the same tone you'd use for a delivery driver who forgot the dipping sauce." Behind him, Emily appeared. My heart sank. She had lost so much weight that her shoulder blades looked like wings trying to burst through her cardigan. Her eyes darted between her husband and me, a silent calculation of safety that I had seen too many times in my courtroom. "Hi, Daddy," she whispered. When she hugged me, I felt her trembling. "Thanks for coming. It means a lot to her." "I wouldn't miss Lily's big day for the world," I replied. We both knew I'd missed plenty lately, but neither of us mentioned the security Derek had installed to keep unvetted visitors away. The party was a choreographed performance. Patricia was everywhere, directing the children like stagehands. She stood in the center of the yard, blocking Lily's path as the girl tried to run toward me. "Lily, we do not run inside the perimeter of the patio," Patricia barked. "What have I told you about the deportment of a young lady?" "But Grandpa Harold is here," Lily cried, her face lighting up. "Grandpa Harold can wait. Proper girls don't gallop like horses." I watched my granddaughter deflate. It was the same slow, agonizing erosion of spirit I'd watched in Emily for half a decade. Patricia released her, and Lily walked toward me with her shoulders hunched, a 7-year-old who had already learned to carry the weight of someone else's ego. I knelt down and pulled her into a hug. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. 7 years old. That's a powerful number." She giggled, but the sound was thin, muffled by the fear of being too loud. As the afternoon wore on, I noticed the rot beneath the limestone. The camera I'd bought Emily for Christmas was still in its box on a shelf, gathering dust. When I asked why she hadn't used it, Patricia chimed in from across the room. "Emily doesn't have time for hobbies, Harold. She has a household to run. She has responsibilities now. We can't all spend our days staring through lenses." I walked through their hallway to use the restroom and stopped to look at the photos on the walls. It was a gallery of the Holloway ego. Patricia at galas. Derek at country clubs. The Holloway crest framed in gold. There wasn't a single photo of my wife. Not a single picture of Emily's childhood. I had been edited out of my own daughter's life, archived like a bad memory. Before we go any further into the darkness of what happened that afternoon, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own family? Like you were being watched and judged in a place that was supposed to be home? If you've ever had to fight to keep your family together, please subscribe to the channel and let me know your story in the comments. Your support helps us bring these stories of justice to light. By 5 p.m., the lesser guests had been filtered out. It was just the inner circle now. Lily was playing with a dollhouse Patricia had given her, a grotesque, expensive replica of their own house. I had given her a telescope. Lily loved the stars. She used to sit on my porch and ask me if the moon felt lonely. When she opened my gift, her eyes had finally sparkled. But Patricia had sneered at it. "A telescope? How educational," she said, making the word sound like a disease. Lily needs to focus on the world she lives in, not fantasies in the sky. Now, we were in the formal living room. The air was thick with the smell of expensive candles and suppressed resentment. Emily was serving tea, her hands shaking so badly the porcelain rattled. "The tea set is lovely, Mrs. Holloway," Emily said, her voice small. "Of course it is, dear. I have impeccable taste. Unlike that toy your father brought. Lily needs to prepare for society, not spend her nights stargazing like a dreamer. We have a standard to maintain." "She likes the stars," Emily whispered. "It makes her happy." Patricia's eyes turned into cold flints. "Are you contradicting me, Emily? After everything we've done for you? You didn't exactly come from a background of standards. Cedar Park isn't exactly a breeding ground for excellence." I sipped my tea from a $200 Wedgwood cup. I didn't bite. At my age, I knew that defending yourself to a narcissist is just giving them more ammunition. I set the cup down and smiled. "Well, a small house is easier to clean, Patricia. Less room for the shadows to hide." Her face twisted. She didn't like that I wasn't angry. She wanted me small. She wanted me humiliated. But she didn't realize that I was observing her the way a biologist observes a specimen under a microscope. I was noting the way she belittled Emily's cooking, the way she mocked the way Lily laughed, the way she controlled every breath in that house. Then, the final straw broke. Lily came bursting into the room, her face glowing. "Grandpa Harold! Grandpa Harold! I found the moon! Even with the sun out, I can see the craters. Come look." She grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the window. "Lily!" Patricia's voice was a whip. "What have I said about shouting in this house? Proper young ladies do not screech like banshees." "But Grandma, the moon—" "I don't care about the moon." Patricia stood up, her face a mask of cold fury. "You've been a wild animal all day. This is exactly why your mother is a failure. She hasn't taught you a single thing about discipline. Come here, now." Lily's grip on my hand tightened. "I don't want to," she whispered. "Come, here." Emily stood up, her face pale. "Mom, maybe she's just excited." "Stay out of this, Emily," Patricia snapped. "You've already proven you're incompetent. This is what happens when Derek marries beneath his station." Derek didn't even look up from his iPhone. "Mom's right, Em. Lily's been a brat all day. Let Mom handle it." Lily tried to hide behind my leg. Patricia strode forward, her heels clicking like a countdown. She reached past me and yanked Lily by the arm so hard the child stumbled. "Let me go," Lily cried, twisting away. That's when it happened. The slap, the sound that changed everything. Patricia's hand caught Lily across the left cheek. The force of it knocked the little girl back against my legs. Silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. Lily began to sob, a heart-wrenching sound that tore through the pretense of that McMansion. Emily gasped, stepping forward, but Derek grabbed her wrist, pinning her in place. "Mom knows best," he repeated, his voice chillingly robotic. "Maybe now she'll learn some manners." Patricia was breathing hard, a look of triumph in her eyes. "This is what happens when you disrespect your elders," she told the sobbing 7-year-old. "When your mother fails you, I have to step in." I looked at Patricia. I looked at Derek. I looked at my daughter's tears. "Excuse me a moment," I said. My voice was so calm it was terrifying. I walked to the kitchen. I didn't rush. I counted the steps. 14. In the living room, I could see them through the archway. Patricia was smoothing her skirt. Derek was back to his phone. Emily was on her knees, trying to comfort Lily while Derek loomed over her. I pulled out my phone. 42 years on the bench teaches you that the truth is only as good as the evidence you can prove. I hit the voice recorder. Then I dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. "Margaret? This is Harold Whitmore." "Yes, Judge Whitmore." Margaret Chen had been my lead clerk for 6 years. Now she was a lieutenant with the Austin Police Department. Her voice was sharp with surprise. "Judge, is everything okay?" "No, Margaret. I am currently witnessing a domestic disturbance. Physical assault on a 7-year-old female by an adult woman. Location is 4847 Redbud Trail, Westlake Hills." "Are you in danger, sir?" "No. The perpetrator thinks I'm a nobody." "She's still in the room with the victim, justifying the assault. I have audio running." "Units are rolling, Judge. I'm coming myself." I slipped the phone into my pocket, the recorder still spinning, and walked back into the living room. I sat down in my chair. I picked up my tea. "Please," I said to Patricia. "Continue. You were saying something about discipline?" Patricia sneered, emboldened by my apparent submission. "I was saying that children today are coddled. When Derek was young, I didn't hesitate to use physical correction. It builds character. It's how things were done in our generation, Harold. Surely you agree. And you believe a slap to the face of a 7-year-old is appropriate for running?" I asked, my voice a gentle probe. "Absolutely," she said, leaning back. "It's a family matter. She was being disrespectful. A slap teaches consequences. If Emily won't do it, I will. And you, Derek?" I looked at my son-in-law. "You agree with your mother striking your daughter?" Derek finally looked up. "Mom raised me. I turned out fine, didn't I? Lily needs a firm hand, not a telescope." I looked at my watch. 6 minutes had passed. The doorbell rang. It didn't just ring, it demanded an answer. Patricia frowned. "Who on earth is that? Derek, see who it is." Derek opened the door, his posture arrogant, but it vanished the moment he saw the uniforms. Lieutenant Margaret Chen stepped into the foyer, 2 officers flanking her. "We received a report of a disturbance," she said, her voice like iron. "What?" "No," Derek stammered. "This is a private party. Everything is fine." Margaret didn't listen. She walked straight into the living room. Her eyes scanned the scene, the expensive tea, the Holloway crest, and finally, the red swelling handprint on Lily's cheek. Then she looked at me. "Judge Whitmore," she said, nodding. The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear the exact moment Patricia's heart skipped a beat. "Judge?" Patricia's voice was a strangled whisper. "Judge Whitmore?" "Retired," I said, setting my tea down for the last time. "U.S. District Court, Western District of Texas. 42 years on the bench, Patricia. I've seen a lot of standards in my time. Yours don't meet the legal definition. Derek's face went the color of curdled milk. You're a federal judge? I was, but old habits die hard, like the habit of documenting evidence. I pulled the phone from my pocket and ended the recording. Lieutenant, I have a full audio confession of the assault and a stated intent to continue the practice. Margaret knelt by Lily. Sweetheart, can you tell me what happened? Lily looked at me, her eyes wide. I nodded. It's okay, Lily. Tell the lady the truth. Grandma Patricia hit me, Lily whispered, because I was excited. The flash of a camera filled the room as they photographed the mark on her face. Patricia finally found her voice, but it was shrill, panicked. This is ridiculous. I am Patricia Holloway. I own Holloway Interior Design. I know the mayor. This is a family matter. Striking a child with enough force to leave a visible mark is assault under Texas Penal Code Section 2201, Margaret said, her voice devoid of emotion. Ma'am, please step over here. I have rights, Patricia shrieked. You do, Margaret replied, and you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. The sound of the handcuffs clicking was the most beautiful music I'd ever heard. Patricia's face contorted with a mixture of rage and sheer, pathetic disbelief. As they led her out, she hissed at me. You're a nobody. You live in a shack. This won't stick. Arrogance is a blindfold that makes people walk off cliffs they built themselves, I said quietly. You should have looked at the name on the shack, Patricia. Derek was shouting now, threatening lawsuits, claiming entrapment. You set her up. You planned this. I documented a crime in progress, Derek. That's not entrapment. That's justice. And as for you, I looked him in the eye. You watched it happen. You held your wife back while your daughter was assaulted. You might not be in cuffs today, but your life as you know it is over. The house felt different once the police left. The McMansion felt hollow, a stage set with no actors. Emily was sitting on the floor, holding Lily. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a terrifying realization. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me? All those years they treated you like trash. They said you were a failure, and you just sat there. Because I wanted you to love me for being your father, Emily. Not for the title. Titles fade. Family is all that's left when the lights go out. Derek appeared in the doorway, his face twisted. Emily, get up. We're going to call the lawyers. We're going to fix this. Emily looked at him. She looked at the man who had let her soul be crushed for 5 years. Then she stood up. No, she said. It was the strongest word I'd ever heard her speak. We're leaving with my father. If you walk out that door, you're done, Derek roared. I was done a long time ago, Derek. I just didn't have the courage to admit it. Emily grabbed her purse in Lily's hand. Let's go, Dad. We drove in a silence that wasn't heavy, but healing. Lily fell asleep in the back seat, her little hand still clutching the telescope. When we reached my house, the shack on Cypress Creek, I led them inside. It wasn't 4,000 square feet. It didn't have a Holloway crest, but it had warmth. It had books. It had memories. Over tea in my kitchen, the reality began to set in. What happens now, Dad? Emily asked. Now the system works, I said. Patricia will be charged. With my recording and the lieutenant's testimony, a conviction is nearly certain. And Derek, well, Derek has a house of cards and I've just started breathing on it. My phone buzzed. It was Richard Torres, one of the best family law attorneys in the state. Harold, I heard. I'm in. Pro bono for Emily. Let's burn them down. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in systematic destruction. I didn't have to break any laws. I just had to shine a light on the ones the Holloways were already breaking. You see, people like Patricia and Derek think the rules don't apply to them because they have connections. They forget that connections work both ways. I made 3 phone calls. The first was to an old friend at the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. "Take a look at Holloway interior design," I suggested. "The lifestyle doesn't match the reported income. And check the interest on their private loans." The second was to the Texas Department of Licensing. It turned out Patricia had been operating without proper contractor credentials for several high-end projects. The third was to a contact at the real estate firm where Derek worked. Within a month, the Holloway empire began to implode. The IRS found nearly $200,000 in unreported income. The licensing board shut down Patricia's business, but the killing blow came from Derek's own greed. When his firm did a deep audit of his accounts, prompted by the rumors of his family's legal troubles, they found he'd been embezzling funds to cover his mother's business losses. It was a total collapse. I watched from the gallery of Judge Maria Gonzalez's courtroom as Patricia Holloway stood in orange scrubs. No Chanel, no diamonds, just the cold reality of a third-degree felony charge. When my audio recording was played, Patricia's voice clearly explaining why she hit a child, the judge's face turned to stone. 2 years probation, the judge announced, mandatory anger management, and permanent inclusion on the child abuse registry. Patricia's career was dead. Her social standing was ashes. Her house was seized to pay back taxes. Derek didn't fare much better. He pleaded guilty to embezzlement to avoid a longer sentence. 2 years in state prison. His marriage to Emily was dissolved in the same month. He lost his daughter, his career, and his freedom. True power doesn't need to raise its voice. It just needs to wait for the recording to finish. A year later, we were back on my porch. The air was cool, the Texas sky a deep, bruised purple. Lily was 8 now, and she was standing behind her telescope, her eye pressed to the lens. She had a golden retriever named Star curled at her feet. Emily sat next to me, a glass of iced tea in her hand. She had a new job, a new apartment, and a new life. The shadows were gone from her eyes. She looked healthy. She looked free. "Dad," she whispered, "did you know all of this would happen when you made that call?" "I knew that when you stop pretending the wind isn't blowing, the house of cards falls down," I said. "I didn't destroy them, Emily. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure someone was watching." "Grandpa Harold, look," Lily shouted. "I found Saturn. You can see the rings." I stood up and walked over to her. I looked through the lens. There, in the infinite blackness, was a world of beauty and order, millions of miles away from the pettiness of people like the Holloways. Justice isn't always a gavel hitting a bench. Sometimes it's just the quiet that comes after the storm. It's the sound of a child laughing without fear. It's the sight of a daughter finding her strength. If you've ever seen someone's true colors come out when they thought you were powerless, you know exactly how this feels. True strength isn't about the size of your house or the depth of your pockets. It's about the truth you carry when no one is looking. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If you believe that justice should always prevail, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories of the quiet power of the law. To hear another story of a hidden past coming to light, click the video on your screen now. Remember, the stars are always there. You just have to be willing to look up.